I think Kamala Harris could have a moment if she trotted out her favorite phrase and said, "Let me be very clear."
Kamala Harris still has a chance to turn things around, but only if she chooses to show strength and clarity. If she used her trademark phrase and said, "Let me be very clear. Our schools are failing. Kids need to be in classrooms with their phones off and minds on. And this idea that testing is somehow rooted in white supremacy, that's insulting. It's racist to imply black children can't compete academically with white children, because they absolutely can. It could be a game changer. When she says, "We're not going back," the average undecided voter silently agrees. They don't want to return to the chaos of Trump's America. But they also don't want to relive the exhausting hyper-woke circus of 2020 with corporate-mandated sensitivity training sessions and empty slogans. Bill Maher has been openly critical of the Democratic Party for failing to give Kamala the platform she needed, and honestly, he's not wrong. The Democrats didn't learn from past mistakes. They made the same ones again, ignoring warning signs, refusing course corrections, and paid the price. Maher's criticism isn't a new revelation. He's been pointing this out for years. Just before the election, he brought up the need for Kamala to have a Sister Souljah moment, a calculated move where a candidate distances themselves from the extremist elements in their own party to appeal to moderates. Back in 1992, Bill Clinton did just that. After the LA riots, rapper Sister Souljah made inflammatory comments about white people. Clinton condemned her statements publicly, gaining respect from moderate and undecided voters without losing support from black Americans. In fact, he gained so much traction that some even referred to him as the first black president. It was a calculated but effective move, and it worked. Kamala Harris, however, never had her moment. Instead of showing backbone, she folded under pressure, pandering to the loudest voices in her party while offering nothing in return to independents or centrists. Maher's point is that Kamala became too scared to lead. Rather than standing firm or offering any sign of resolve, she tiptoed through her campaign, afraid to offend anyone. She didn't speak out against the woke mobs on social media. She didn't challenge the far-left dogma that was clearly alienating voters. Instead, she just smiled and nodded, as if pretending everything was fine would somehow carry her across the finish line. It didn't. It made her appear weak. Maher argued that this brand of safe politics cost her dearly. The two most successful Democratic presidents of recent memory, Clinton and Obama, both made bold moves to distance themselves from the extremes within their own party. Obama famously did it in 2008 when his former pastor, Reverend Wright, made outrageous claims that the government created AIDS to kill minorities and said, "God damn America." Obama, knowing this was political dynamite, gave a powerful speech on race and made it clear that while Wright had been a part of his past, his statements were out of touch with reality and not reflective of his own views. It was a pivotal moment that reassured middle-of-the-road voters that Obama was serious, thoughtful, and capable of standing up to extremism. Kamala had every opportunity to do the same and instead chose silence. The Democratic Party has no shortage of opportunities for a leader to stand up and make a rational statement. There are the progressives who can't define what a woman is. The ones who insist biological males should be allowed into women's spaces in the name of inclusion. Or the people who argue that standardized testing is a tool of white supremacy, thereby implying that black students are inherently less capable. These are all moments Kamala could have seized to show that she is not just a mouthpiece for fringe ideologies, but someone with a mind of her own. But every time the moment came, she let it pass. No statement, no clarification, no courage, just awkward laughs and empty words. This inaction didn't go unnoticed. The undecided voter, the centrist, the moderate, they saw it all. And instead of being inspired, they were turned off. The opportunity to show strength was there. The opportunity to say, "We're not doing this. We're not tearing ourselves apart in the name of inclusion," was always there. But Kamala didn't take it, and the cost of that hesitation was enormous. Maher's entire argument is that leadership is about making tough calls, not ducking them. And Kamala ducked everyone. She still has a chance to rebound. She could deliver a powerful speech about how Americans should understand the emotional toll that the killing of George Floyd had on the black community. but then also admit that the pendulum swung too far in the aftermath, that the reaction, while emotionally justified, went overboard in some areas. But she hasn't said anything like that, and that kind of honesty could have shifted the conversation back to a place of balance and common sense. The Democrats, ever since Obama's historic election, have lived in a delusion. They believed his win guaranteed them permanent cultural and political dominance. They were so sure they had cracked the code, forever locking down the support of young people, minorities, and the media, that they stopped listening. They took voter loyalty for granted. They believed the applause on Twitter was a substitute for real support. And that hubris, that blind belief in their own invincibility, led them straight into the trap of radical identity politics. Rather than governing with vision and clarity, the Democrats got high on their own press. They started to pander, to chase headlines instead of results. Every radical idea from the far left wasn't just tolerated, it was embraced. They thought the glow of Obama would shield them from consequences, but as Mark keeps reminding them, reality doesn't care about your hashtags. The voters they ignored, the workers, the parents, the moderates, they were watching. And the backlash came hard. They allowed looting to be framed as justice shopping. They stopped arresting shoplifters altogether. Books like Anti-Racist Baby became bestsellers. Companies jumped into diversity and inclusion efforts that went from reasonable to absurd. Borders were flung open in the name of compassion, only to be quietly reined in when chaos followed. Portland decriminalized all drugs. Seattle allowed a no-cop zone until violence forced them to shut it down. Standardized testing was canceled until schools realized that was a horrible mistake. And despite the evidence, the head of Chicago's teachers' union still claims testing is white supremacist junk science. Worse, that same union once tweeted that reopening schools after COVID was rooted in racism and sexism. It wasn't. It was rooted in a desire to get back to reading, writing, and math. And now, in a city where only 25% of students are proficient in basic subjects, the same union is asking for a raise. Again, teachers deserve fair pay, but how can we ignore the absolute collapse of educational standards? This is why people are so mad at wokeness, not because they hate change, because wokeness ruins everything it touches. We used to take pride in our children's education. TV shows would celebrate science and math achievements. We pushed kids to think, to innovate, to become leaders. Now we're raising a generation that knows how to feel, but not how to think. They're drowning in emotion, but starving for knowledge. Only 1 in 4 kids is academically proficient. That's a national emergency. And the root cause? The obsession with fake equity. Excellence was sacrificed for feelings. Participation was celebrated over achievement. Facts were swapped out for feelings. And now our schools are a shadow of what they used to be. This is why Maher and so many others are furious. This isn't about politics. It's about survival. If we don't fix our education system, we're not just failing our kids, we're dooming our future. And Kamala Harris could have been the one to say it. She could have been the one to stand up and say, enough. Instead, she chose silence. And now she's out of the picture. She had a shot at making history. She could have been the first black female president, but instead of leading, she tried to please everyone. And in the end, she pleased no one. Now the party is looking ahead, and the spotlight is slowly shifting toward Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But if Kamala's story is a warning, AOC's approach looks like a replay. She's not learning from the past, she's doubling down on it. She thrives on photo ops, viral tweets, and slogans, not substance. She's not speaking to the entire country, she's playing to her base, ignoring the middle, hoping the media will clean up the mess. But voters are smarter now. They've seen this movie before, and they're not impressed. Kamala Harris's fall wasn't just a political stumble, it was a full-blown collapse. It should have been a lesson in leadership, a chance for the party to recalibrate. But instead of changing course, it looks like the Democrats are staying the course. And if AOC is the future, then the future doesn't look moderate. It looks like a party that's grown addicted to outrage, that values emotion over results, and that no longer speaks to the average American. The left has fallen into an identity crisis. Performance has replaced policy. Feelings have replaced facts. And grievance politics has become the default. Undoing that won't be easy. It would take a complete reckoning, a true shift in values. But with every viral soundbite and every purity test, the party slips further into the abyss. Moderation isn't just missing, it's on life support. And unless something changes soon, the Democrats may find themselves permanently locked in an echo chamber of their own making. So if you're still holding out hope for a return to reason, you're not alone. But don't hold your breath, because as long as style keeps beating substance, normalcy might just stay a myth.